Hello, this is my reflection videos for hours 1 through 5 for General Methods Field Experience, Education 480. The first day I went was Tuesday the 17th, and I was there for about an hour, so one class. Uh, all they were doing that class was taking a test, so I got to see some test routines, which was interesting to see. Miss Ogburn allows for music to play in the background when they are taking their test, and then as well as so they go through their test, and if they have a question that they don't know how to do, they'll just skip over it and then go on to the next question. Once they complete their entire test, they'll go up to Miss Ogburn at the end of class or whenever they finish their test and ask her for help on any questions that they have, and then Miss Ogburn will help them through it. She won't give them the answers, but she'll show them where in the notes they should look and things like that. My second day was Wednesday the 18th, 11 to 1, so 2 hours. Miss Ogburn was using proximity at the beginning of class because at the beginning of class it's kind of a bell ringer. She always has an activity for them to do. It's on their classroom that they use. Schoology is what it's called. So it's on there, and then it's also a paper one, and they take about 5 to 10 minutes every day and go through that. So during that, the students are allowed to move around a little bit and talk with their classmates and work through it together. So Miss Ogburn was using proximity by walking around the room to combat any misbehaviors that might happen. She allows for students to play music during this time, and when they start their class, Miss Ogburn has the objectives on the board on their slideshow presentation. One of the routines that she has set in place is that the students always circle their answers, which is pretty nice because she always knows exactly where to look. The class was pretty quiet during the instruction and when students were asking questions, which was good to see. When there was a disruption, Miss Ogburn, looked at the student who was disrupting the class, and then called their name in a low voice, not to draw too much attention to them. But their daily class schedule is a bell ringer for about 5 to 10 minutes, instruction for about 20 minutes, and then they get to work on their assignment for the rest of class. She also used Fist to 5 a lot after introducing a new topic, so that's good to see because she's using a form of assessment to see how the class is understanding the concepts. Thursday was my third day. I went from 10 to 1, so 3 hours. When there was a couple of disruptions occurred during this class, and she just called their name lowly and just looked at them and just shook her head a little bit. Then actually one of the students started talking back to her, so she just said no, shaking her head and like, no, like, don't talk back, like, pay attention. For one of the class routines that I saw, students have to ask to go to the restroom, and that happens only before class or during the time that they're doing their warm-ups as well as when they're doing their homework. And I actually, they have a little light on the wall, so they'll flip up the light if they leave the room to go to the bathroom, which I thought was interesting. And then some general observations that I had was every day there's a question on the whiteboard that they can write on. They don't have to, but it's just something that the students can do in their free time. It wasn't a blank wall in the classroom. Every wall had a lot of stuff on it. There's a daily schedule on the whiteboards, like what's for lunch, quote of the day, what the date is. There's a weekly schedule at the back of class, so what unit they're going to go through is on there with each class. They have a missing materials bucket in the back with a bunch of folders in it, so if you miss class, you can go back there and do it. There's a turn-in bin at the entryway to the class. The class was organized in pods of 4 and 3. I think there was 5 pods of 4 and then 3 pods of 3. They have the Mayport CG mission statement clearly stated, so that's like what the students are being held accountable to. So like challenged, ready to learn, respect. The classroom functions kind of freely. During the bell ringer, students are allowed to walk around and talk with their peers about the homework or the bell ringer. During instruction, they're relatively quiet. They're taking notes all the time and asking questions or answering whatever Miss Ogburn asks them. And then during the practice work, they're allowed to converse with their classmates, but she has them stay in their pods when they're doing that. Fist of 5 is used a lot, I saw in the class. Each student gets a guided notes packet, actually, which is nice because it helps them stay focused and know what to write down in their notes. And then for tests, they get a similar thing, so they'll get a notes packet with what they need to write down for the test. She has them put their thumbs up or down if they're ready to move on. And there's always a low, quiet voice when addressing disruptions. One teacher-student interaction I had when I was in the class and it gave me insight about teaching was I was in the consumer math and there was only 3 students in there. The one student was gone for a while, so Miss Ogburn had to do some catching up with them. So she had the other 2 and me play a game. So we played a game, just introduced myself to them. They told me their names. We just had general small talk, playing the game. They taught me how to play. I did not win, but it was still pretty fun. I helped them with a couple of math calculations that they were struggling with. And the insight that gave me about teaching is sometimes you're going to have students that are gone for a long time and may not be able to catch up on their own. So if you have to set aside a specific class period, if it's a class is small enough where you can do like a study hall or have them play a game you've played before, as long as they're being monitored, and that way you are able to catch up that student who is behind. That is all I have for now. Thank you.